technology, the technology of this is not my favorite. Hopefully getting things better aligned. So trying something different, and hopefully there's a little bit less of eye darting. I guess we'll see. But I am willing to do this and figure all this out because this is important to me and I love talking about this stuff. So I honestly, it's a joy for me to figure out how I can teach this, and something that I do all the time as a coach. So I'm excited to bring you principle number 2, which is honoring your hunger. And so first things first, I just want to set the stage for you as to why this is so important. So if you think of a baby, if you've ever tried to feed a baby before, I have 4 kids and I remember feeding them very distinctly, and how challenging it was that if they weren't hungry, trying to get them to eat, or if they're hungry, trying to get them to wait, oh, it's not quite time for them to eat, or just not in a place where I could feed them. You know how well that goes, as in it doesn't go well and usually involves a screaming baby very, very quickly. So this doesn't ever work for very long. And we know that babies are born really with the innate ability to honor their hunger and fullness. So like I said, once they're done eating and no longer hungry, it's very difficult to get them to eat more. They're just done. Sadly, that innate ability is something that we start to lose over time, and actually pretty early on. Research shows us that we start to lose it around the age of 3. So honestly, some of that is a function of real life and having to adjust to, a family schedule and how you want to eat certain times, your meals at certain times. So it's not all bad necessarily, but, there's certain ways that we don't want to lose it, and we want to get it back. And that's what this principle is about, is learning that this is something that we were born with and we really should have all the time. So I promise that this is not a principle that, okay, I'm in a work meeting, I'm hungry, and you just walk out of the meeting. But more often than not, it's not that we're talking about. We stop honoring our hunger or listening to it because it doesn't fit in with our eating plan. I can't be hungry already. It's not time for my lunch, or you're hungry for something specific and you think, well, I've already eaten all my calories or all of a specific category or macro for that day. So that's really where we get into trouble with our hunger cues. So that's just a quick introduction, and I want to dive in a little bit deeper. Sorry, adjusting the camera behind. Diet culture overall, like we talked about in some of the earlier videos, really unfortunately paints hunger as an enemy or a symptom to overcome, or at the very least ignore. In reality, hunger, it's your body's way of communicating a basic need of survival. We were created as beings that hunger was a part of. It's not a shameful thing. It is necessary for our lives, for us to continue on and to have the energy we need every day. So part of this whole principle is that you have to practice and explore how and where you feel hungry, if this is something that you've been ignoring or trying to push down for a long time. So when I work with clients, we talk about, where do you feel the physical sensation of hunger in your body? For a lot of people, it's like a gnawing emptiness, or maybe it's just a growling of your stomach. Those are very typical ones. Maybe you just feel kind of sleepy, a dull headache. I often describe I feel really fuzzy in my eyes, which honestly doesn't really make any sense, but that's how I would describe it. In fact, right before doing this live, I was like, I have that actual feeling. So I went and ate a cheese stick with a couple of crackers just to make sure that I wasn't getting too hungry. And maybe, and the next step is you want to look at, well, how does it affect my mood? Maybe I'm not necessarily feeling a physical sensation, but you notice in your mood that something's a little bit off. So maybe you're having difficulty concentrating, you're irritable, or again, just feeling really tired, or your energy level is low. Again, common signs of hunger. So before your next meal or snack, I would challenge you to connect with your body and ask yourself, okay, where's my overall level of hunger? And that's something we'll talk about in just a second. But just check in, do you feel pleasant? Is this a good feeling? Do you feel neutral, or are you to the level of hunger that you're unpleasant, you're feeling almost anxious or frantic, I need to eat something? And then what might you do differently next time? For me, I often sit with my hunger for too long. And that can be, you know, something that I notice with my temperament, or like I said, feeling kind of anxious, like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, I need to eat something right now. So I would also say try this when you're kind of out of your routine. Do you notice that your hunger changes when you're traveling, or when you're stressed, or when you're overly tired? You know, is it harder to notice? For example, I'll give a really personal example. This morning we were having an argument with one of my 12-year-olds, and I noticed we were sitting there eating breakfast, and I noticed, like, all of a sudden I really wasn't feeling hungry. I ate because I knew, okay, I know I actually am hungry, but I noticed I'm not actually feeling it. And some of it I was just, you know, making myself eat because it was time for breakfast. But the frustration, the anger that was there because of our argument affected my hunger level, which was really interesting, knowing that I was going to be doing this live later today. So a learning experience for me. So overall, I always want you to approach this with compassion and really curiosity. So don't judge yourself for trying to learn this back, or to even noticing that you don't feel hungry. Or if you've noticed, oh my gosh, I got too hungry. Again, just judge, you know, non-judgment, curiosity, and always look at it as a way to learn from the experience. And it's just an ongoing practice, and you're not going to get it all in one day, and you're going to continue to learn from yourself. So like I mentioned, you always want to be checking in. And one thing that I find really helpful with my clients is doing a hunger scale from 1 to 10. I've had clients say, I don't even know if I feel hunger. So this is always a good process of going through and really checking in. So on a hunger scale, you want to almost fill it out for yourself. But in general, you know, 1 is going to be painfully hungry. You can't focus on anything. Perhaps you've been without food for quite a long time. And 10 would be, you know, painfully full, feeling ill. 9 would be like Thanksgiving full, if you want to think about like those two levels. You know, 10 would be like, I feel sick kind of level of full. So ideally, when you're eating, we say, you know, you want to stay between a 4 and a 7. A 4 being, I'm not starving, but I'm hungry and I can eat. Then a 7 is full and satisfied and feel content. That's ideal. We all know life happens and you can't stay between those levels, but that's where you're usually going to be more in tune with your fullness. And so that's when you don't let yourself get too hungry. You are more aware of how quickly you're feeling full or feeling satisfied with your food. So if you don't let yourself get too low on the hunger fullness scale, you usually don't go too high on the fullness scale, on the opposite end of that scale, before you notice, oh my gosh, I'm super full. So those two go together, and they can be really important. And that's why going through this process, just taking a meal or two when you have the time to pay attention, can really teach yourself a lot. So I want you to, you know, a couple things to think about. Maybe you're not hungry at this moment, but when you're doing this, you know, do you stop eating when you're full, as you notice? Or if you're used to stopping at a 5, but you notice you get hungry very quickly after that, try eating until you're closer to a 6 or a 7. And notice, hey, does that make it so you can last longer? You know your schedule. Do you do better with your work if you're not, at a 7? Do you do better at a 5 and then have time for a snack and continue on with your work? So it's very nuanced. You get to experiment. Like I tell my clients all the time, you're the expert of you, and you can see what levels of hunger and fullness work best for your working and for your energy level and what you have each day. So now I know I'm saying basically, okay, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. And that seems really simple. And I know that it's not actually simple. And for, you know, it's quite the opposite for most people. And for clients that I work with, it can be very challenging, and also very frustrating, scary, even intimidating, to think I don't have anything to tell me what to eat except for my own internal cues. And it's all about building that trust back up again. So, I work with clients and they're like terrified. Okay, if I do this, if I let myself go, I'm never going to stop eating. I will never be able to tell that I'm full. I'll never be able to stop myself. And I can guarantee you that that's not the case, but you do have to have some trust with your body and have a little bit of faith in your body. So it is a vital step in becoming an intuitive eater, learning to honor your hunger, and lean into, okay, why am I afraid? Let me just try this out, and give yourself the chance to show your body like, oh, my body actually will tell me when it's full and I can stop. So there are instances where you feel like, I don't even know when I'm hungry, because maybe you have pushed it down for so long. Maybe you've been doing a lot of extensive fasting, so you're not really on a normal eating schedule. There's a lot of things. It could be medication that changes your hunger. There are a couple of different reasons why and then, oftentimes it's just we become so disconnected to our body. So there are actual reasons, whether it's medication that you may not be able to control, but the ones that you can control. Like I said, when you're just disconnected, you're used to just kind of pushing it away. And so it's almost a process of reawakening those cues and learning to listen to them again. So it's the internal awareness of your cues. There's a very long word for that. And I actually would rather do a whole video on your interoceptive awareness, knowing what your body's cues are. And it's a fascinating process to do. So what I want to, like I said, I understand that it can be scary, especially if you have lost trust with your body and you fear what would happen if you let go of control. But I promise you that through working through these steps and these principles, you can become a team with your body again. So I'll just talk about a couple of ways to do that, where you're trying to rebuild that connection again and honoring your biological hunger and fullness cues. So the first step, especially if you have been restricting or just trying to follow a plan really closely for a while, is look at, are you actually eating enough? A starved body will not provide you with accurate signals of hunger and fullness. So if you have been keeping your calorie count in really close check and have no, you're not really paying attention to your own cues, you may not be actually eating enough. So I would just recommend, as a general rule, to just start out eating 3 meals a day with 2 snacks. Now that's just a blanket statement, so you might need more. But once you're consistently feeding your body, that first process, your body will actually start to calm down and kind of quiet down a little bit and allow you to listen for your hunger. So there is a process almost of refeeding your body if you have been ignoring those signals for a long time. So the key for this is that you have to listen to it. So what I usually tell people, if they're in that process of like, I don't even know when I start to feel hungry, is okay, just pay attention. I ate breakfast at this time, and then just, if you have, make sure you have the time to do this, is about 1 to 2 hours after you've eaten. Just take note. Where am I feeling things in my body? Am I feeling a little bit hungry? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling anxious? How do I feel? Do I feel full? Do I still feel satisfied? Maybe just place your hand on your stomach and just take a couple deep breaths and practice bringing attention to your body again, and practice awareness and being mindful again. Now, it may begin as growling noises, your hunger, but, it could go to lightheadedness, like we said, difficulty concentrating, headaches. So it may move past the feeling in your stomach before you even notice it. So, and then after 3 or 4 hours after a meal, again, check in again and see if you at the 1 to 2 mark, you didn't notice anything, check in again in a couple of hours. So it's all about building that awareness, that mindfulness back into your body's cues. And I just want to reiterate, I have so much compassion for you in doing this. I've been through this myself, but I truly believe in the resilience of your body. So believe me until you believe it yourself. Just hold on to my confidence for you, I guess. So I promise that as you take these steps to reconnect with your body and help your body to recognize when you're hungry again, that no matter how broken or how damaged you may feel, your body will always bounce back as long as you believe in yourself. And the last thing I want to touch on quickly is just that there are more than one type of hunger. So there's multiple types of hunger. The first one that you're probably most aware of is just your primal hunger, your need to eat. It sounds like just like it is. It's just that strong desire that comes with survival. My body's hungry. It needs fuel. I need to eat. And we have biochemical triggers that drive our desire to eat. So that's just your physical hunger. The second one is taste hunger. Now, you may not feel physically hungry, but you're curious about what something might taste like, or you just want a certain taste. Now, I feel this often, like at the end of a meal, I want to end with something sweet specifically. I know people that want to end with something savory. And that's where you just have a taste hunger. Now, you might notice a taste hunger if you are around cookies when they're freshly coming out of the oven, or maybe you drive by a restaurant and you smell French fries. So it's just things that you may not be hungry, but you're like, that sounds good. And the next one is practical hunger, which can be really important when you're living a normal life. You may not feel hungry, but looking at your schedule, I'm not going to be able to eat for a certain amount of time. I'm going to head into this 3-hour meeting where we don't have any breaks. I'm going to eat a snack. I'm going to eat something. I don't want to wait until the end of this meeting, because then I will dip too far down on that hunger scale and be a 1 or a 2. And I don't want to get to that point, because that's not ideal. I'll have something now to make sure that I can last. And that's where planning ahead is key. It is a form of intuitive eating, looking at your life and going, okay, this is what makes sense for me. So just having the snacks and being prepared, like I said, having a cheese stick before you go on for a Facebook Live. So, and then the last one is one that gets a pretty bad rap, and that's emotional hunger. Again, you're not feeling physically hungry most likely, but there are emotions that you are sorting through that are uncomfortable, and you're not enjoying the feeling of sitting with those emotions, but food becomes a comforting choice. Now, I want to emphasize the word choice. There is nothing wrong with this occasionally, but if you notice that food becomes your only choice, that's when we get into, let's look and see if we can find some other coping mechanisms to balance it out. So that is something that I don't like to demonize. I think food has a great place when it comes to working through emotions. And there's a lot of emotions that we use food for: celebration, just enjoyment. So it's when it's the only mechanism we have that we start to get concerned and want to see, okay, what else can we add in as our coping mechanisms when it comes to emotions? So my challenge for you would be, on top of all the things I've already said, is to, when you find yourself looking for food, take a moment just to check, okay, am I actually physically hungry? Maybe not, but I just want to snack on something right now. And it might be, I am nervous about this next meeting that I'm going into. I am frustrated with my kids. I'm using personal examples here. But it's that awareness that is always that first step. I think I've said that before. Just see where the hunger is stemming from. Again, no judgment, but when you are aware, I'm not hungry, but I just feel like I want something to eat. Maybe I'm taste hungry. I'm usually going to be more in check with my hunger fullness scale when I have that first step of awareness of what type of hunger I'm feeling at that moment. So again, baby steps. This isn't a place where you want to have a lot of judgment. Now, as we look at principle 3, we take this hunger and honoring that hunger and take it to the next level. And it's making peace with food. So this is important work to do, to understand your own hunger cues in your body and your fullness cues in your body. And then we get to kind of peel back that layer and talk about food, and again, making peace with food so it's not bad or good. And for this video, I do have a printout available that I use with my clients, and it's just in my intuition method program. It's a great way to just keep track of your hunger and fullness cues as you're eating, and when you have time to pay attention to them using that scale that we talked about, the 1 to 10 scale. So I'll put the link in my bio and you can click on it, or if you can't get access to it, feel free to PM me or DM me for a link as well. I appreciate you participating in this, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll continue to see you next week and keep moving with these principles. Thanks.